went inside. I think Phil out he's doing that with his mom. He's busy with that phone. Yeah.
That always gets sensitive.
You guys have an exciting day thus far?
It's fun.
Well, we're getting up at 6:30 wasn't much fun.
Yeah.
You got something you can change?
Go on, okay.
Okay.
Just check to go to the
I
city.
have a place out there that I've been renovating for the last several months. How I know it. Had to make that drive once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
How did it go with your condo?
It's pretty much mostly all done. Had a couple of very small tweaks to go, and it's good to go now. I'm just perfecting it the way I want.
My niece called me today and she wanted to know if there was any rentals because their friends are coming down to open a restaurant. But I'll message you, see if you're interested.
I make business where I can. The week you're doing it, and then you come back, you're like, wait a minute, how did I miss that spot? Yeah.
And every time you go back, you'll look at those tweak
Okay.
spots again.
That's right.
You
Yes.
always do.
Mr. is
And I haven't been there in a good
Mr.
2
Called for
months now.
That's
Loftis
why you never do it while the owner's around,
office.
because they see the mess and they always look for the worst.
Well, in this case, I am the owner, so I.
Yeah, so you would tweak yourself.
I like this because I can put a wide angle on it, so especially when you're doing a group picture, you get that nice kind of look.
Yeah, go ahead.
Greetings, greetings.
Here we go.
Usually Jerry lays down so
No, that's the chair.
she unburns her soul. She says, "Oh, that teapot, you're gonna kill me."
No, it's an inside joke.
Good seeing you.
Don't mess around with this group too long, because they'll have you carrying purses.
It's an inside joke
Remind me to
because
get
that's
some
me.
samples from the treasure box.
Feel that.
Do you have any
I'd like
t-shirts?
to carry that around all
Do you
day.
have any t-shirts?
We have a little basketball. Y'all have grandkids? Come on in. Y'all paid for this office. I'm in. The only freebies we have are little
Gotta
basketball
come here more
balls.
often.
Yeah, snowies.
Oh, those are good.
Dress up. Curtis, did you sign it? Can you sign it?
So we have a very poor treasury department, right?
Where's Amy? We need basketball. You know how when you bring a bunch of kids here, the last thing you want is somebody like me to give them candy or something. So we gave 100 kids these bouncy balls.
Hey,
Teachers
Brian.
didn't know what I was
Do you have
bringing.
a
So
sharp?
it wasn't 30 seconds till they were all over. Yes. Amy? We need balls. They all have grandkids. So how did it go today?
Great. So far, so good. Can you help us with school choice? We need all
I
the
am
help
helping
we
you
can
with
get.
school choice. I am helping. We've written some editorials about the finance part of it, and we've got some kind of behind the scenes things we're working on strategically.
Good.
So I'm excited. There's more, as I
Are you
understand.
working on a muffle for Phil? He's my guy.
There's the Senate's a strange place. I try to figure out what goes on over there, and it's just very interesting to try to understand. And they're gonna, at the end of the year, have tremendous volume of work to do. Department administration, retirement, budget, school choice, and a whole lot of things.
We gave the afternoon off because when they
For 13 years. Think about that, 13 years. If you're a business, you wouldn't do that. And so, it's just it's day by day, we take that step back. And I think, I hope we'll get a good deal this year. I really hope so. This is a year. Especially, there may not be a significant Department of Administration or pension bill this year because there's so much confusion. So I don't know. I mean, I hope there is, but it just don't, I'm hearing that they're going to kill it. So maybe school choice is the thing that comes out.
What did I hear
It's beyond
on,
my ability to know.
on the Department of Administration, what they're looking at, ultimately, they're adding 10 more agencies?
Yeah.
Something I read yesterday, I believe. I didn't get to study it a whole bunch.
That's right. Well, it's not what we thought it was going to be. Everybody wants to kill the Budget Control Board, and I think they should kill most of it. There's a lot of things. I sit on the Budget Control Board, and we never talk about cars. We never talk about buildings. These are like the building, $1 billion worth of buildings out there. The cars, I don't know, thousands of cars. I don't know how much that is, but it's over 1,000 employees. It's computers, it's technology. you know, the ski software system alone is $170 million, and that's just one part of technology. So we have all that under the budget control board, and we should have sent that to the governor last year. I mean, I just, you know, 'cause I talked to the governor, I talked to others, I said, let's put all that stuff away. Those are the ministerial functions. Let's send that over to the governor now. And then I went to the governor, I said, you do this for a year. You know, take it, put a sign on the wall, Department of Administration. That way it's no longer just an idea. People say, well, no, it's like Health and Human Services. There it is. There's a guy over there, he's in charge. But they didn't do that, and I'm afraid the same thing this year. You know, you get hung up in these things like bonds. I don't think that any governor, anybody, I don't care who it is, Carol Campbell, Nikki Haley, Mark Sanford, whoever, I don't think that anybody should have the right to indebt the state by themselves.
Absolutely.
And when you come to like these pension things, yeah, it's just one person. When you come to pension questions, you know, we're paying for decisions made in the year 2000 about 28-year retirees and Terry. We're paying for those now and for the next 15 or 20 years. And so these are big decisions. And the problem the board has is that people don't understand it. It's so many functions, so people get confused and they say, heck with that. And then you got 5 people sitting over there who, until recently, met in a room much smaller than this. When his boss, Mark Sanford, used to be here, Mark sat at the end of the table, and you couldn't, well, this is about as many spectators you get in the room. So, you know, people didn't know what went on. And the only spectators were lobbyists and lawyers and people who had vested interests. So within luck, they'll do most of the bill this year. That will create value for the taxpayers. Nikki will do a good job of running it. She'll hire somebody that'll be in charge and she'll be accountable. So I think it'll work out well.
Well, constituents feel like they're at least taking the steps.
Yeah.
One step at a time. Sometimes we just get bogged down in thinking, nobody's doing anything. That's the feeling it portrays to us as constituents. But just to know that there's something being done and every step you take is forward. So, you know,
It seems like we
They're
have
not
fought so
listening.
hard for
Mhm.
transparency in
Yeah.
2010, and it seems like we've not seen a whole lot of that. We have in some areas, but not near enough that we wanted, that I wanted anyway. I'll speak for myself.
The New York Times is coming down to finish an article they're doing on about transparency, not just what we're doing here in South Carolina, but what we're trying to do in Washington, in New York. Because pension plans are the largest single inflow of cash to Wall Street. It's not the king of, it's not the king of Saudi
Absolutely.
Arabia, it's not Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. It's working people's money. It's people like us.
Yeah.
Don't make a lot of money, we make money, it goes into the system. And so why don't we call the shots? We don't. You know, and the customer is what drives the machine. So they need to be more transparent. We have contracts that are over-lawyered, we have financial projects that are over-engineered so nobody can understand them. I mean, how many of y'all get your statements at the end of the year and can understand your mutual statement? Nobody can. I give these speeches, you know, in real fancy places where there are a lot of people who are in financial services and lawyers, and they all send it to their CPAs. And so if we can't read our own statements, who wins the match?
It's kind of like filing your own tax return anymore. The way the IRS and the federal government, unless it's just a straight, simple thing, you can almost forget it.
But I'm convinced that if we are successful and have more transparency on Wall Street, then that filters down to people like us. And not only will we make more money, but I think Wall Street makes more money. You know, I believe in the free market, and if you have a free market that's really free and clear, it works.
Yeah.
But if you have one side that, well, think about this. When the retirement system goes to do a deal, we might take 2 lawyers, and they're making $100,000 and $150,000 a piece. They'll show up. What does a big investment house care? They show up with 10 lawyers all making $1,000 a piece. What difference does it make to them? It's $1 billion deal. You need 20 lawyers, 30 lawyers. Just tell them how many you need. You need a busload. That's what they'll do. I don't blame them for it, but we let them get by with that. And we've got to stop. So what we've been talking about, you know, I've given speeches in Miami and New York and Washington. I'm going to Las Vegas for the big alternative conference out there, alternative investment conference. People are paying attention. I've had at least one huge fund, I mean a huge fund, say they're changing their contracts of what we're talking about. And I think more are too. And this New York Times article should be a big boost to what we're doing.
Forward anyway.
When is that coming out?
It's supposed to be Sunday. It's supposed to be last Sunday, but they expanded it again.
No, not this upcoming Sunday, but this following Sunday.
Following Sunday. So it'll be really interesting, and it's all about transparency. You know, we talk about constitutionality, we talk about things legal. What difference does it make, if any of that, if you don't know what goes on?
That's exactly
You know,
right.
if they have to tell you. You know, and The
Then you don't
contracts,
know if you've been told the truth or not.
Right.
You get more.
You get one side of it.
the contracts that we have over at the investment commission are such that I can't go see them and take my lawyer. If Nikki Hadley wants to go over and look at these contracts as a trustee and as a governor of the state, she can't take a lawyer. So she's expected to understand the SEC filing, the banking systems, all the tax reforms, returns. So maybe it's a 100-page contract itself. Maybe there might be a stack of this much due diligence in that file. Just different deals, pro formas, computer runs about what the estimated
Did
returns
you
would
say
be.
she can't take
She
a
cannot.
loan?
She cannot. Neither can I.
Why not?
They won't let us.
I see the
Who
price
is they?
goes on.
Who is
Who's
they?
The
they?
investment commission, the unappointed members of the investment commission. And that's what we're all about. When you see
Well,
us
that's what you
in
have to get on there.
That's who
they're,
was trying to
They're
deny
appointed
you.
by whom?
Oh, yeah.
the budget
And
control
control
board,
board.
Several different
We
people.
need to get rid of them.
the budget and control board appoints them. The treasurer, who's on the board, can either serve or he can appoint. And I always thought that I would just serve for 6 months and then I'd get off. But I didn't realize I had problems with it.
That was in this, when I read about this reconstruction of this government, there was that budget and control board that was calling the shots, and in fact, they renamed it something else, and it was still the budget and control board. There was nothing different about it, but they reconstructed it, and it follows, and the governor and lieutenant governor and the treasurer, they all fall under it. Is that right?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and that's what people talk about it. I can tell you, as being on it, we don't do a lot. So much of it are these ministerial functions like running the fleet of cars. And that's important, don't get me wrong, but we don't ever hear about that. That's just done at the agency level. And so those agencies ought to be over the governors. The two really big things are the pension plan. So that's our biggest liability and it's our biggest asset, and it grows and grows and grows. And then the other thing is long-term debt. Like when we build dormitories or schools or roads or infrastructure, if we deepen the port, all that stuff. And those are the two things that concern me. I don't think, let's pretend I was a governor. I don't think it would be right for me, somebody who would have a 4-year term, to say, I'm gonna debt everybody for 20 years on this project because I think it's a good idea. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And almost every state that has good credit has some type of board. They don't call it the budget control board, and they surely don't run the cars and the telephone systems and all that stuff. But what they do is they make these large financial decisions, and they need to be made in public, and the people need to be accountable.
But see, they're not always the ones that's called in and questioned about this. It's you and the governor and people, and you don't actually know because they're doing all this over here.
That's right.
I call it CBS, corporate bull sugar.
But if we get all that other stuff, that just leaves the 3, and then maybe in a year or 2, people say, well, look, we still don't like it. We want to do it a different way. But then you understand, but right now it's just complicated. It's a multi-billion-dollar agency with thousands of employees. And if I had the list here, I mean, they run insurance programs, health insurance programs, life insurance programs, cars, what else? Injury funding for lawyers, the buildings, the taxes, the energy office, health insurance plan. I mean, it's just this long list of things that most of you never heard of, but they're really important.
But probably nobody is really managing and keeping an eye on it and just letting money go out the door.
It's just a monster that's just.
That's right.
It's like an octopus.
Now, and here's what we got to be careful. You don't want to create a monster at the governor's office.
Right.
So you have to make sure that
Have to balance that.
yeah, these things are balanced. Because there's lots to be said. The DOT, Department of Transportation, you may have seen what we got after them when they fall back. But we were able to make a lot of changes because we put them on the front page of the paper.
Exactly.
But here's the important thing. People say, well, if you move everything to the governor's office, it becomes transparent. Nobody from the governor's administration has talked publicly about this problem. They've delayed hundreds of millions of dollars of your infrastructure work, just delayed it. You have a right to know that.
Exactly.
But nobody from the administration has told you that. So you have to think, okay, it's not just the perfect thing or the perfect idea is to send it someplace. You gotta make sure wherever it ends up is transparent.
Right.
So what we did with DOT is, they were talking about restructuring DOT. And I don't really care how they restructure it because it's never gonna be right. Until there's transparency, it doesn't matter what they do. So what we tried to get them to do was to put the internal auditors to report to an outside place. And once you did that, you'd have accountability. I found out when I was in New York for we go with the infrastructure bank to see about the bonds, make sure they're rated properly so we can sell them. And the bonds for the infrastructure bank allow us to have roads and stuff. So when I was sitting there, I was paying attention, and there was General St. Ange, the secretary. And what I didn't know was, he started to read off a whole list of things that they had done since I got AFRA. They're so opaque, they never bothered to tell us that they had fixed so much of what we pointed out. Because if you say, I fixed it, that means there was actually a problem.
Exactly.
And so that's, so you get this thing in state government. So it's funny, when somebody hands me a file and says, this is a problem at X station, I go like this and tell you what it is. I don't even have to go over there, you just know what it is. It's not the state employees, it's the leadership. You leave state employees alone, they'll do a good job. But it's just the leadership. They want to hide everything, they don't want their name in the paper, and they don't want to be
And that's why we have so much distrust overall in the government. Not necessarily.
Me too, sister.
It's more transparency, that we know what's going on and we're told the truth. It would all work better.
One of the best things we
It'll be a
have.
hard time getting there.
One of the best things we have, college 520 programs, y'all get something, you have to go on the sign, we have others for kids and grandkids, get all you need. That allows you to save money for your grandkids at a tax-deferred way. I'm so glad y'all came to see us, and thank y'all for doing what you do.
So this was Mr. Curtis Loftis Jr., the treasurer of South Carolina. Nice to meet him. We have a very instructive lesson in his office. We're glad we were here.
Oh, y'all gonna take it? You can take it.
Yeah.
You doing well? Hey, where's your little bag?
So who are you all working with these days? I see your name all over the place with different candidates.
I'll tell you, this is the lowest answers we have. This is good.
Why are y'all getting behind me? I'm sure I like that.
Belinda.
Jacqueline. Where are we?